Today we're going to be creating a logo for ourselves in Adobe Illustrator. To start off with, I need you guys to create a new file. So you're going to go to the top left where it says New File, hit that button. That's going to take you to this window. If yours is set up in anything other than inches, we are going to swap that over. So it needs to always be in inches. For the best dimensions when creating any type of logo, it's going to be best if you stick with 5 inches by 5 inches for your file size. Of course, keep in mind, I feel like a broken record here, but 300 PPI, DPI, whichever one it says, 300 at minimum. We're going to rename our file to logo. Oh dear, I have all caps. Logo dash name. So logo dash your first name. We're going to hit create. That's going to take us to this screen with a 5x5 artboard. You guys should already be done with your thumbnail process and creative strategy process. You should have come up with some kind of concept for your brand, and you should have some kind of sketch. So we're actually going to bring in our sketch file. So I'm going to drag mine off. I have mine saved to my desktop at the moment, so I'm just going to bring that in. I can just drag and drop. Now that we have our file in here, we are going to embed our file and scale it. I actually want it to be the same scale as my artboard, so I'm going to go over here to the top right and set this to 5x5. I'm then going to lower the opacity to about 25. Go into my layers panel, rename this layer to sketch layer. And you can include dashes if that's your preferred. Then I'm going to make a layer on top of it. First, I'm going to lock that layer. Sorry, I should have said that. So after we make that layer, we can lock that layer, making it to where we can no longer draw on top of that layer. Our next layer, we're going to name that layer Guide. We're going to name that Guide. So then I want you guys to go into your shape tools. So it should be rectangle by default. If it's not, you can 2-finger click it. It'll pull up all of your shape tools, and you can just click your rectangle tool. We're going to be creating a baseline is what we're doing. So I'm going to make it whatever color I want to make. I'm feeling red. So this will be the max height of our letters. This will be the base of our letters. And then I put one in the middle. So when those pink lines pop up, that means that things are perfectly even. See how it says 0.3267 inches for both of them. So that's perfectly centered in between those two things. Otherwise, we can select it all, and if we hit this button right here, it will make sure they're perfectly centered. So if it wasn't, so if I had it like this, I could select it and then hit that button. Now they're perfectly lined up. So now, I want to duplicate another one and another one. So the reason I made those last two is because one of them is going to be the guide for the up center. The other one is going to be the guide for the tip of our pencil. Then I'm going to lower the opacity of this as well to about 25. That feels pretty reasonable. And I can lock that layer too. So we have a sketch layer, a guide layer. Then I'm going to make one final layer, and this layer is going to be called logo. Now that we are in our logo layer, we're going to start building it. So you're going to go Window, Pathfinder. That's going to take you to this. It's going to look something like this. We use this a lot during our popsicle project, and we don't want to have to go Window Pathfinder every time we want to use this in the future, because Pathfinder is just such a useful tool in Illustrator. You're going to select this little box and drag it off to the side until it has this little blue icon. That will make it to where you can just click over here to access your Pathfinder. And I like mine actually up top, but yeah. So now it's in there. Okay. We're going to start off with creating this M. So I'm going to click with my pen tool and hold Shift to drag it all the way up to the top. Holding Shift ensures that the line is perfectly straight. Now, we want to make our next angle. So the angle, the slanted part of the M, I'm not going to hold Shift while making that. If I do, it'll only do it at a 45-degree angle, and we want something sharper than that. All right, so that made it a fill. For our words, we're actually going to design these using strokes only. So I'm going to get rid of the fill here. So hit this white box with a red slash. Then I'm going to click stroke, double click stroke, and I can just make that black. Well, I can, but it's going to be silly. Why are you being silly? We're going to make you less silly. Please and thank you. Okay, there we go. So I double clicked it. Now, when it comes to making the other side of the M, I could just do this, but that's not perfectly even or perfectly symmetrical on both sides. So to do that, so Command Z to backtrack, I'm going to, sorry, I'm getting ahead of myself. Instead of continuing, I'm actually going to take my regular selection tool, which I can press V to get to if I want to, and then I'm just going to click off of it so that we just have a completed shape here. Now, I'm going to Command C, Command Shift V. That is going to copy and paste it. Alternatively, I could just Command C, Command V. So Command C is going to copy, Command V is going to paste. Command Shift V is going to paste it on top of the shape that you copied. Or the last option is to select it and then drag it while holding Shift and Option. Then letting go of the cursor before you let go of Shift and Option. Because if I don't let go of the cursor first, it will not actually duplicate. Okay. The Shift Option one is usually the best option. Then, we don't want the M in our case to be the same direction. So I want to flip this. I want to flip this and make this the opposite. So I'm going to select our shape, 2-finger click it, go to Transform, Reflect. I need to make sure that it's reflecting it on the vertical axis. That means that it's reflecting from top to bottom, because if it's horizontal, then it'll just flip it upside down. But vertical axis. Then I'm going to hit OK. As you can see, it has flipped my shape. I'm going to move my shape over a little bit so that it kind of does this to make sure that these shapes are overlapped. Then I will select them both. I can do that by either clicking and dragging, or if there was something behind here I didn't want to accidentally touch, I could click it, hold down Shift, click the other one. Then I'm going to go into my Pathfinder panel. Shape modes deal with the fill. Pathfinders deal with the strokes. So since we're dealing with stroke, I want to combine these, so I'm going to hit merge. Sometimes it can be a little finicky. So when in doubt, I'm actually still going to hit unite like we did with our popsicles. The only thing that's going to happen with there is it's going to turn these into a shape, but we can fix that after that. So it turns them into a complete shape, but it adds this bottom part. We really don't want that. So to get rid of that, we're going to go to our scissor tool. So eraser is the default, but if you 2-finger click that, there's a scissor tool in there as well. You can also get to that by pressing C on your keyboard. So I want to get rid of the bottom. So I'm going to click here. That's going to slice this piece right here. Then I'm going to click all the way over here. So now, as you can see, if I highlight that, it's a separate piece entirely. So I'm going to go back to my selection tool. Then I can double click this and hit delete. Then it's gone. It's gone. But it left these little remnants that we really don't want. So if to make nitty gritty, like small changes like that, you're going to go to your pen tool. If you 2-finger click that, there's something called a delete anchor point tool. So if you select that, I can go in here, zoom in so you guys can see, and delete the anchor points that I don't want because they look bad. Okay. That left us with an M, but this is a really skinny M. If you look at our sketch behind it, I went with a pretty thick M. So let's fix that. I'm going to select my M, come over here to stroke, and I'm going to set it to about 14. That looks crazy right now, but we can go in and manipulate it. So I'm going to hit my direct select tool, select the anchor points I want to move, and hold down Shift when I move them. That will ensure that it moves evenly and it doesn't warp anything in a way I don't want it to. Notice how I'm adhering to the guides I created with the bottom and the top. This looks a little big for my taste, so I'm actually going to take my regular selection tool and just squeeze it. I think that looks like it's about how I want it. Okay. So you can go in and make minor changes. Remember, with your direct select tool, you can manipulate specific anchor points. Oh, I just had a blonde moment. But you can manipulate specific anchor points to make sure. And I need to make sure they're both selected. Boom. Now they're aligned perfectly. Perfect. I can even go in and manipulate it some more, but I know I want it higher, so that's okay. We're chilling there. Now, deep voice time. We are going to do the E. The E is really quick and easy. We're just going to hold shift every time. So every time there's a straight line, we hold shift. Now I know you're wondering, that looks really weird, Mr. Lucas. That does not look anything like what you want it to. It doesn't adhere to your guidelines. Take your selection tool, and you can just scale it. You can just scale it to make it fit. So when you guys scale normally, you see how it kind of just moves the top. If I want to move both the top and bottom, like I know that this is wrong on both areas, I can hold Option, and that'll scale it from the center. That's pretty cool. Now, we got to create that middle piece part of the E. So I'm going to click my guide, because the guide's in the middle, so obviously that's what I want. And while holding shift, I'll just make a new line. That's awesome. So we're actually going to adhere to the middle guide as well during the process. Okay. There might even be an argument to make that adhere to the middle one. I'll see what that looks like. I don't hate it. We'll come back to it. So let's move on. I'm going to now do the D, which is one of the more complicated bits. So it depends on how you want to do it. I'm going to show you one way. It's not the way I actually want to use, but it's a useful tool for you guys. So I have made my points. So now I want to create a rounded D. So I'm going to click where I want the round to end. So up here. And then I'm going to drag. So, and it pulls away, and it made something real finicky. This looks super weird, doesn't it? So, to fix that, we're going to go in with for starters, our direct select tool. So I'm going to move my stem down. Then I'm going to move this to about there, it looks like. Now, I'm going to take my curve tool. If you guys remember, the curve tool can go in and edit curves. So I don't want this really long D. So I'm actually going to click this point and just drag it in. Now, there's a bunch of changes I want to fix here. For starters, we're not adhering to our guides that we need to be adhering to. And also, this spot that I moved there doesn't work. So then you can go in and make really minute changes. So if I want that directly in the center, maybe I do. Maybe I want the curve to be a little less intense. So we can do that by adding more points and manipulating those points. Maybe I want it to have a flatter bottom. I can do that the same way. This D looks really wide, so I'm going to make it a little skinnier. That will affect the curves that we just made, so I actually don't think I'm going to. This is really bothering me, this slight angle here. So I'm going to go in and fix it. So I'm going to zoom in like crazy so that it doesn't snap into place. And then I can manipulate this curve handle so it's straight. And I got to zoom back in. That's pretty close. That's really close. So we're gonna be okay there, I think. So that leaves us at mead. So for media, so we got to get the pencil in. We're actually gonna mostly use a mix of shape tools and pen tools. So because I want to keep the same consistency, because that pencil is supposed to be our eye, I'm going to go in and for starters, I'm going to click the base of our guide for both. But then I'm going to hit our eyedropper tool and then click our old shape to make sure that it sticks with the same stuff. And I'm going to do something really quick because I'm realizing I made a mistake. And that is I have these currently activated. You guys should not have to worry about that, but now I have fixed it. So give me a couple seconds to go in here and fix my design. It will not take long. So the issue is with those buttons, I had those from aforementioned videos that don't exist, of this being the third time that I'm recording this. I had those selected from something I'm going to show you guys a little bit later on in the video. So let's make sure that these are even. I'm going to group those together. So Command G is your group, remember? I'm going to distribute these evenly. That's not what I wanted. Okay, apparently that's not going to work. It should work, but it's being a little silly goofy. But we got meat again, and everything's the same thickness as it should be. So that even seems like too sharp an angle. Maybe not. But I do want it to be a little farther apart. So what I want you guys to do, this is a little bit complicated, but we are going to select this shape, Command C, we're going to select this line, Command C, Command Shift V. That's going to paste a new one on top of it. Then you're going to go up here to the top. I think it's cut off on my video. I'm so sorry, but you're going to go to Object, Expand, Fill and Stroke. Okay. So that's going to make it a complete shape. So you see when I click this one, it's a line. This one's a complete shape. And we can just put it right back where it was. So now I'm going to do it one more time. So Command C, Command Shift V. I'm going to take our direct select tool, that's A on the keyboard, select these bottom 2 points, drag them up. And it might help you guys if I make this a different color. So we'll make this one blue. So it's really important when you're designing a logo to design in black and white. I know I just made this blue, but it's not the actual logo color, so that's okay. So now I'm going to just go Command right bracket. So I'm getting ahead of myself. I'm so sorry. So I drag these up with my direct select tool after selecting both of them, and I'm making sure these points snap into place on my other square. So now I can Command left bracket a couple times, so it's all the way. Oh, I don't have it selected. I have the point selected. Command left bracket. Then I'm going to come up here to the top to my pen tool, 2-finger click it and go to Add Anchor Point tool. So I want to add points to my main rectangle. These points that it's coming up with, it's interacting with my guides. So it's interacting with the line I left from earlier, and it's going to interact with the other shape. So I'm going to go here, click Add Anchor Point. That'll add it to my big rectangle, but it's getting the point from the line. So then I'm going to add these two, if I can find them, which are going to add the points from the rectangle. Sorry, the smaller rectangle we made. So now it has 3 points. It has one here, here, and here. And we're going to be making the pencil tip. So I'm going to go back up here, 2-finger click, go to Delete Anchor Point. Then I can get rid of these two. That will leave us with a triangle, a perfect triangle that is perfectly even. So then I can just delete that rectangle. We don't need it anymore. And I can Command left bracket so that this pencil or this line is back up front, and I can delete that too. That will leave us with just this. The reason we started with the line, well, for starters, was to get our guide, but also it's to make sure that it is a stroke that is the same thickness as all of our other lines. Now, I'm going to Command C, Command Shift V. That is going to paste a new one on top. We're going to make it a stroke only. So I did that by swapping the stroke over here. So you can swap. I want to make sure that I have the right one selected. Yes, you can swap. So I could just delete the stroke here, go in here, make this one. Or a faster technique is just to press this button right here and it'll swap them. Now, I'm going to make this white for now so that we can see what we're doing. As you can see, we got to manipulate this pencil a little bit. It isn't adhering to our guides. That was 2 seconds. We're good. And I'm about to have to do that again because I'm about to make our stroke bigger. I think this is a little much, actually. I think this is about what I want. So, again, I'll do it again. Yep. That's pretty good. And actually, I'm going to Command Z this bottom bit because I'm going to fix that in a little bit. And by a little bit, I mean actually right now is probably the best time to. So I want my eraser to have a slight slant to it. I know that's a very small thing, but it is something I do want in this design. Cool. So again, I'm making sure that I'm adhering to my guides. Now, I'm actually just going to select our original white shape. So Command C, Command Shift V. That's going to paste it on top. Then I'm going to hit Shift E. That's going to take me to my eraser. So I want some differentiating marks. So the eraser should be a fine tool for doing this. Notice how I'm keeping them a little slanted, but I'm keeping them straight. Yeah, that looks about right. I can make some small changes if I want. So I'm going to delete this middle piece. And then I'm going to make it a color that we can actually see. Let's just do black for now. Or actually, let's not do that. Let's just make it the color of our That's what I want. So that tells me that there's some changes I want to make. For starters, I want this eraser piece to be a little bigger. So I'm going to double click it. Then I'm going to hold Shift and Option to scale it. Boom. And then I'm actually going to add a fill to it as well so that we can't see the stuff from under it. I want this pencil tip up here to not have a stroke. Actually, I want it to just be a fill. And I'm seeing a different problem that I didn't foresee. I'm actually going to go back to my scissor tool, which is C, and I want to get rid of this line here. It's not quite what I want. And it's messing with some stuff, like right here. So I'm going to go in, clean that up, and make that just a line. That should be fine. Yeah, that totally works. Then I'm going to take my pen tool, so P on the keyboard, and make a couple lines going up the middle. And create one, and then I can hold Shift and Option to just duplicate it. And oh no, it's too short. I'm just going to take my Direct Select tool and make it bigger. I want these to be centered pretty well. Awesome. Starting to look like a pencil. Starting. In fact, an issue I see that I'm not a big fan of, I don't like how big this eraser piece is. It makes it look like our pencil's a little wonky. So I'm going to shrink it a little bit. Probably about like that. Which means these need to be extended. There we go. And we're going to make two more. These are final marks. And I'm kind of making any small tweaks I want now. But then I'm going to go in with my pen tool. Make 2 more lines. Boom. And I didn't duplicate these because I wanted them to follow a different slant. So that's almost our completed pencil. I'm going to go up here. I want to get these stars. These stars are cool. So to do that, you're going to double click the shape tool. Then I'm going to switch to the star tool. So usually when you're making something, oh, this is a bad example. Again, from definitely videos that don't exist. They're gone. This isn't the third time I'm recording this. If you usually make your shapes, you're going to click and drag to create your shapes. But you see, that's not the same style star I want to make. So instead, I'm just going to click with my button. That'll pull up this window. I can then pick how many points I want it to have. And I can type in this box too. I need 4 points. So, boom. Then, if I zoom in while still having my star tool selected, I can make edits of the shape of our star. I'm going to need something like this for this, because I can then go in with my direct select tool, which is A on the keyboard, by the way, and then select these middle points and round them. I think a stroke on this is probably not the vibe, so no stroke. Now, this still isn't perfectly right. I would say these stars are a little more tall than they are wide. This one's pretty square, so instead, I'm actually going to just increase the height. Boom. There's our first star. Then I can duplicate it, and I can shrink it a little bit to get our next star. And a third one. So 3 stars total. And I might have made these... I don't love the height, the size of these two. So I'm going to make them a little bigger. This one's going to be somewhere like here. Somewhere like here. And these ones aren't exactly adhering to our guides. In fact, I said there's no stroke, but I think I lied. I think a little stroke might be nice. In fact, maybe it's rounded points or corners, rounded corners. Sorry. And maybe I make that stroke white. So it's a stroke, but it doesn't really look like it. No, I lied to you guys. I don't like it. I don't like it. So we're just going to go back. I'm going to make them black for now so that we can see what we're doing. And I can adjust them till I find the exact position I want them in. All right. So now I'm going to finish off with the A, and then I'll kind of speed up until we get to the next steps, okay? So let's finish our A. So again, holding shift to make sure that the points all match. I'm going to make a full A because if you can see over here, I'll be making another one later. So I want to make a full A so that I can only make one and won't have to rebuild it. Even though part of it's going to be covered up by our pencil. Okay, so I want to scale only the top. So I held shift when creating this, but I actually want there to be a slight slant to this A. So I'm going to select both of these, 2-finger click, that'll take it back to this window. Then I'm going to hit transform, scale. 75 might be enough. I'm thinking maybe 65, and I can click here to see kind of what we're sitting at. That looks pretty good to me. So 65 is what we're going to go with. And now we have a better A. I'm actually going to just directly pull our bar off of our E so that we have a completed A. Now, I'm not the biggest fan of this not being flat on the bottom. So, I'm trying to think of the best solution. If I round this, will that? No. Although, do I like that? No, I don't. I actually hate that a lot. So I could go in with this to round it a little bit. And that would fix the base. But I don't like it. So option 2, we're going to go with option 2 for the A to fix this base. We're going to extend it. Then I'm going to select, for starters, I don't know why those are grouped. They shouldn't be grouped. I'm going to hold down option, make this a little bigger so that it intersects with the A. Then I'm going to select both the bar and the big part of our A, go object, expand. Boom. Then I'm going to go to Pathfinder, and I'm going to hit Unite, so that this A is just one big shape. So I want to fix this bottom part. It's really annoying. So I'm going to make a rectangle that ends at our guide, which I just want to zoom in a lot. Yes, that ends at our guide. So I can make it a different color to show you guys. So if I go like this, you see how it interacts. We're going to select the rectangle and our A, and then I'm going to hit minus front. That chopped off the bottom piece, and now we have a perfectly straight A. In fact, I'm actually going to Command Z because I do want to do this to our D as well. But I'm going to do it to our A again. And I'm going to do it to our D. So I'm going to select it, object, expand. Then I can merge. No real reason to merge, but yes. And then boom. The reason I wanted to do that to the D is because I wanted to have a completely flat base. Now remember, Command left bracket. That's going to move it all the way behind our pencil. And I'm going to move it over a little bit as well. And now I'm going to speed things up. I'm going to now move on to the bottom part. So I'm going to take my T, my type tool. I'm going to hit T on the keyboard, and then I'm just going to click. I don't want to click and drag because that's going to create a text box. We just want to click once. I'm going to do full caps, the up center. I don't want to do title case. Title case is when you capitalize the first letter of every word. We don't want to do that. I mean, you can do that, but I don't want to do that for my design. So the up center. Then I'm going to pick a font. I don't want to use Myriad. I would rather use something I prefer, which one of my biggest favorites is Acumen Variable Concept, because it is such a large font family. I'm going to go with, let's go with light. Light seems reasonable. Then I'm going to kind of line it up with the top, like our top guide piece. And then I'm going to scale it while holding shift. Always use shift when scaling text. This ensures that it scales evenly. I know you guys have heard me say this before, but we don't want to warp and distort text. We also don't want to use Comic Sans or Papyrus for this. If you guys use Comic Sans or Papyrus or Impact or Phosphate or Script, or there's a whole bunch, but the biggest ones are Impact and not Impact, sorry. Well, Impact, but Comic Sans, Papyrus, Script, Copperplate. Let's not use any of those. Those are no-nos in Mr. Lucas's class, okay? Okay, well that, aside from some tweaks that I want to go in and fix, one of which being I want to add a little more visual interest to this. So I'm going to, for starters, raise my M a little bit. I know I said no to that earlier, but I do want to. I'm also going to move these up a tiny bit so that they're kind of bounces around a little bit. See, these are rules that I'm breaking intentionally. If you know what they are, you can break them intentionally. It's kind of like anatomy. I remember I mentioned when we did our principles of design lesson that if you understand the way things are supposed to look, you can then go in and tweak them to look a little different. So for this project, I knew that I was going to want a little bit distort on our stuff. Cool. So that says media aught. So now I'm going to select everything. I'm going to Command C, Command V, and then hit Command G. So Command C copies, Command V pastes, Command G is going to group it together. So I want to scale this down. So I'm going to select it all. Sorry, I'm going to select one of these for now. Oh, ungroup it. My bad. You guys. Yeah. So to do this step, I'm going to select one of these. I'm going to go up here to transform, scale corners, scale strokes and effects. Because if I don't do that, so if I don't hit that, and I want to scale this all down. So let's say I want to make this smaller. If I do that, you see how it kind of gets all wonky and all messed up. We don't really want that. So instead, we'll hit this, transform, scale these. That'll make it to where it actually scales as I shrink it. And it won't lose quality. So it's really important, alongside designing in black and white, that you design something to be visible at down to an inch. So I made we have the width and height up here. So the height is almost an inch. Right at an inch. So now I'm going to put this down here at the bottom, or it doesn't really matter. Then I'm going to hit Command 1 on my keyboard. Command 1 makes it so that your screen size is the actual size. So remember, our artboard is 5 inches by 5 inches. So from this corner to this corner is exactly 5 inches when you hit Command 1. So that means that my logo right here is almost exactly an inch tall. I can still read that pretty well, and it still reads as media art, and nothing is lost. I can still tell it's a pencil. I can still tell those are stars. We're all good. If it was all the way down to less than a quarter of an inch, you kind of can't see that anymore. You want to avoid poor legibility, but this way makes it to where it's not poorly legible. Okay, so now we can start thinking about color. But I'm going to end this video here now that we have our black and white logo and have made sure that it's to scale. So this is our first video down.